Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian own not to control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live. Actually, get the list of these pop up episodes. If you want to listen to more of these pop up episodes, feel free to, when you subscribe to the channel, click the subscribe button and as well click the notifications buttons, all notifications, so you can get notifications for when we go live or when we do our traditional Tuesday episode. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay once again. This is the Vault, episode 110, protecting or actually, it's trustee responsibility series right now still, and this particular episode is protecting wealth. So appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listening to replay. Want to go ahead and start off by saying we got the asset protection conference coming up. So this episode is definitely going to be focused on that, very catered towards the protection of wealth. So definitely want to talk about it today. This is one of those conversations that can be very open ended, and so we know that this is episode 410, trustee responsibilities protecting wealth. So when we talk about protecting wealth, we get a lot of different perspectives, especially when you talk about it from the public perspective. Everybody in the public has different perspectives on how wealth is pretty much administered, protected. We'll just use the word protected in this particular case. Trustee responsibilities protecting wealth. In the public, that's very general. It's very quote unquote, oh, to each individual's own. Well, that could be true, but in the private, protecting wealth looks like not losing money. Period. Losing money to what? Things that erode your wealth. Things that erode wealth. So what does a sophisticated trustee come into the mindset of managing wealth look like? It looks like they're walking into a position where they're not looking to lose anything that they just been given. Now, that is the first mindset, protection. That means not losing anything that they were given. Great mindset to have walking into any type of fiduciary or responsible position. Once again, this is a trustee responsibility. So when you talk about dealing with fiduciary responsibilities, you talk about protecting wealth, counting the downside, looking to a downside, aware of the downside first. This is actually the first thing in the four keys in our system at the vault. This particular one, we talk about protection. That's the first thing that asset managers focus on in the private. There is no negotiation. In the public, it's go get money. They skip straight to the third step. But protecting the wealth is stating, well, I don't have any large substantial amounts of money. I don't have large money and I don't have all of that money. So why would I need to protect something I don't have? Well, this is where when a system comes in place first. See, the system is put in place first. The education is put in place first. What? For the proper management of assets. The proper management of wealth. The proper management of wealth comes from knowing first we have to protect our downside. Not run out to the street and say, oh, we got to go make money for our family because we think our family's coming from a disadvantaged position. You're not. You're the creator. You're the person that is doing the work for the family estate. So, there are individuals that make up a family and they contribute to the family estate. So when we talk about, where's this so-called money coming from? It's coming from you all and your ability to get assets transferred, exchanged into the trust. But people want to jump straight to that position. They want to jump to, oh, I'm gonna go out here and grow the money. That's what the public says. Don't be broke. How can you be broke if so-called dollars aren't yours, and all you're gonna do is spend them and get them, spend them and get them, or get them and spend it. It's the when we say spend, we're just talking about giving back to other people. We're not saying that it couldn't be an investment. We're just talking about it leaving your hands. So when we talk about that, protecting wealth comes from limiting the amount. or limiting the negative differential to the P&L. What happens is that when you're protecting wealth, you're definitely looking at the negative aspect or the differential to the P&L before you ever go out and grow anything. It's actually not just asset management, it's risk management. Protecting your wealth is risk management. Do you know your risk? Have you calculated your risk? Are you calculating your risk on a daily basis for different things that you're doing? The risk of doing one over the other. It's the same exact thing with trusteeship. Protecting wealth comes from analyzing where to allocate capital, where to pull back capital. Trustee responsibilities for protecting wealth. Well, let's look at it from this perspective. Not just from the downside, but there are eroding factors. These eroding factors take away from the preservation and growth and passing along of wealth. How does that happen? What's an eroding factor? Well, we could just say the word tax. We don't have to limit it to that. But let's go to lawsuit. Money can be sued, whether a trust is a person. So if they sue a trust, they could freeze the assets or all the assets in one trust. Oh man, Trust Christian Vault, we came to you. We knew we only needed one. We only have one. It's our trust. You hear this type of language? It's our trust, and we only got one, and we about to put our whole life estate inside of one trust. Right. Trustee responsibilities protecting wealth. How do you protect your downside? Asset protection is when it's separated, not just in one. Assets are protected when they're separated. See, we hear that term protected when they're separated. From who? From you, maybe possibly as the owner, and two, from other assets in case of lawsuit or litigation. And or litigation, we should say. Or many other eroding factors. One of the factors they try to say in the public is the fact that the currency that you're utilizing is a commodity. By being a commodity, it's pegged in a market. It's a commodity. It's like corn, it's like oil, it's like gas, it's like sugar, it's like copper. The dollar is a commodity. Currencies are commodities. Supposedly, the crypto is limited, but it's still a what? Commodity. Why? Because they went through the CBOE. They're going through the Securities Exchange Commission now. Why wouldn't they have to? Are you a security? Because the security is on the stock market and commodities on the stock market and contracts, securities contracts, regulated industries. But I don't know how long it's going to be unregulated, so I'm going to try to get as much as I can out of it as soon as possible, because that's just the best thing to do. I don't really want it to be regulated. Right, and we've seen people get in on things that literally are two or three zeros behind the spot. How are you two or three zeros? How are people retail investors allowed to invest in things that are two or three zeros possibly behind spot? When you look at that, that already lets you know you're trying to get rich quick. Because if you think about it, if it goes to 1 cent, you literally should 300x your money. That's how simple it is. They're selling these securities on the crypto side that are two or three zeros behind the spot. Like that right there, that shouldn't even be allowed. But why is it allowed? Well, because they did put it on a public market, and people are now allowed to through these different websites to just go out and lose their money, literally lose it. Like, where is the disclaimer to these companies that these companies are not even valued at a dollar? They're not even valued at a dollar. This company is not. We traditionally see spot two or three zeros behind for the founders of the company. We're not going to go off into a tangent about that crypto stuff, but protecting your wealth deals with many things, and particularly your education towards being able to discern a quality investment from a bad investment. And what we see in the public marketplace is there is possibly a lack quote unquote, of education towards these investments. Why? Because we are at a moment in time. This is 7/7/2022. The facts are that the public retail market are sitting on their hands. Whether they got wiped out at the beginning of 2022, or what do you want to say? They got wiped out by Robinhood somewhere in the past 12 months? How many people had money on that website? You go look at the company's website, the stock's down. You go look at these companies out here nowadays, you say, wow, one of your favorite rappers, Netflix, this company is down over 50%. So what doofus? So let's talk about the doofuses, because this is going into education. The financial advisor. Oh, he's a financial advisor. We're never going to give title credit here ever again. You do not have right to claim title if you cannot perform. Are they performing in this market right now? This is what they said, not all, but when you see someone managing, oh man, I work for a company and I'm telling you how to invest your money, and they're telling you how to invest your money. Right. They told you to go out and buy a company that literally raised the price of their membership in a so-called recession. They raised the price of the membership. Not only did they raise the price of the membership, they also wanted to stop password sharing. They knew what was going on for years. See how they're trying to protect their wealth? Oh, we got to protect our equity in the company. The company's down over 50% equity. Where's the value if you lost 50% of your equity? Not cash flow, equity. Real hard dollars. Where's all that money that you made over the years? Well, maybe the seniors cashed out. Hmm. We knew this was coming. We were preparing for it. We had to take it to the moon. We took it to over 100 billion, and now we're less than 90. Netflix at one point was over 125 billion dollars. Company is at less than 90 billion dollars today, and it's actually way more than that. But we want to sit out. People want to say, "Oh man, where do I get the education then? Where do I get the information if it's not in the public sector where I'm being spewed garbage?" Because protecting your wealth comes to your education. That's a fact. If education and performance almost go hand in hand, the greatest students are almost the greatest teachers. They didn't have to be the greatest performers, but they have to be the greatest students. And usually, if you are a great student and performer, you're a great leader. If you're a great student and a great performer, you're a great leader. Protecting wealth is setting the pace for the family estate. Setting the pace for the family estate. Protecting the wealth through education. How much education do I need? It's unlimited. That's why that one's rather ambiguous when it comes to protecting the wealth to the downside. If you're looking to protect the wealth to the downside, we already know what type of position you're in. Sounds like a good position. The first thing is to make sure we do a proper risk analysis. How many people have been trained into walking into a risk analysis situation when they first walk into capital? Or do they say, okay, well, what are the opportunity sets that we can look at? No doubt about there are opportunity sets to look at. Let's talk about the first step. Proper risk management. That's proper asset management comes from proper risk management first. Look into the downside. This is what we see all proper risk managers do. Not only do we talk about looking at the risk to the downside, we talk about the opportunity sets. The opportunity sets are available to you, but we have to be cautious. We have to investigate. How long do we investigate before? We have to investigate before we invest. That's the rule. Investigate before you invest. How long do you investigate before you invest? We've had people come in Trustee Training and they've listened to pretty much all the episodes. They come on the line. We haven't heard it one time. We haven't heard it two times. Haven't heard it three times. We haven't heard it 5 times. We haven't heard it 10 times. We haven't heard it 15 times. We've heard it over for sure over 20 plus times. Maybe even over 50 plus times. And people listen to the podcast and they get this information and they say, okay, I can make a decision on whether I can communicate with this person properly. They actually get a good feel for the vault before they actually ever get moving forward. They go into a consultation, they come out, they move on the other side, protecting wealth. First thing is trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. That's how that looks. We'll say it again. Protecting wealth looks like trusting Christian, own nothing, control everything. That's what it looks like. Trustee responsibilities, protecting wealth. We'll bypass over, keep talking about the looking at the downside because some people say, oh, was it negative and it's negative. That's what they say. Why would you walk into a situation thinking about the downsides first? Well, that's counterintuitive to the humans walking around that would just run across some money and think about either how to spend it, or two, like they say, maybe possibly invest it because it's a substantial amount of money and they want to keep that money coming in, so they know that they have to put that money to work, because money is a commodity. It can be in another holder's hands and appreciate. How do people protect those things? By having a great education, knowing how to have the right team around you to know the contracts that you're in and not in, know the plus side of the contracts, know the downsides of the contracts, making sure contracts are in your favor, making sure that you're always reading on contracts, specifically if you're in business or if you're in education. Excuse me, if you're specifically in business or if you're an investor, you're reading information that can give you that plus one to your game every single day, so you do get 365% plus better every single year. It's so important to get 1% better every single day, in your areas of interest, areas of investment, areas of business development. Protecting the wealth is just getting, always at the end of the day, the P&L is in a plus. If you have your business or lifestyle in the P&L in the plus every single day, how are the L's? First of all, there is no L. There is no L if you're ending your P&L in your business or your lifestyle or your investment lifestyle plus every single day. Sure, you may expend capital. These companies are expending capital. Everybody's expending capital. It takes money to make money. That's the expense of business. Business expenses are a write off anyway. So when we talk about expending capital, that's important. Protecting wealth is knowing what's really an expense and what's not an expense. The P&L. Making sure things are an expense so then it doesn't count against our profit. See how it doesn't count against? You probably see people's lifestyle is counting against the profit. See, when you make these dollars, you're actually supposed to get them to work for you. You hear that? When you make these dollars, you're supposed to get them to work for you because they're a commodity. It's like if you bought a piece of gold, you're not gonna sit there. You're going to, uh, if you get a piece of gold, you might lease it out to somebody. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all don't understand. Do people understand that the governments, private people as well, lease these assets? Gold, silver, diamonds, pearls. They lease cars. So when you buy an antique car, they lease your car, or you take your car to a car show, you win you win prizes. How do you protect the dollars? You put it into a car that you can go win a car show with. It doesn't mean you can't ever sell the car, but the car still is able to generate cash flow, and it still holds as an asset as far as equity. It's an equitable asset. So if you sell it, it's actually could possibly sell for more than what you bought it for, and as well, it's an antique. It's supposed to be appreciating, one and or two. Then on the back of that, you can actually take it to car shows and win car shows. I mean, there's so many ways to so-called make the money make money. Protecting the wealth, though, that's different. Protecting the wealth, it looks like not just, oh, we gotta go get some money. the paper dollar bills, we got to make sure we're in the right vehicle. We need to be in the crash test dummy vehicle. We need to be in a vehicle that's got all the bells and whistles for safety and protection to the downside. What would that be? You all know what that is. When you listen to the voters, trust Christian, own, under control everything. So when you separate assets or when you're in these positions, the vehicle matters. It's not about the business. It's not about the investment. It's about the vehicle. What vehicle are you in? Oh, I'm in this entity, that entity. I'm in this entity, I'm in that entity. That's the vehicle. Because it deals with, are you protected or are you not protected? Are you naked? Are you state or are you private? This is what we talk to our trustees about at the workshop. Are you state or are you private? So I'm protecting the wealth to the downside. Are you protecting the wealth to the downside? You know that, okay, there's state entities and then there's private entities. That's almost one of the first education. This is why people come to workshop. They need that more in-depth education, particularly when we talk about private versus public. Protecting wealth to the downside more is a private mindset. Just going out and going to get in an entity because and then not even being able to have the ability or have the education or training to interview lawyers and accountants instead of just going with your local Uncle Larry or Aunt Susie. You're going with somebody that's more qualified, somebody that has insurance that you can sue them. So yes, you are engaging with lawyers that you can sue. You are engaging with accountants you can sue. Oh man, there's a lot of lawyers out here. I mean, well, particularly the lawyers got the malpractice, and you want to deal with the lawyers out the malpractice. But oh, let's go over to the accountants. You know how most people they get finger played around with the accounting. Oh man, my accountant messed it up. Then we seen somebody post on the internet the other day. Well, you can't blame your accountant for messing up. Well, that's true. You can't blame your accountant, but do you have malpractice? The account have malpractice insurance so you can sue them in case they do mess up. Like, dude, you just cost me $100,000. Dude, you just cost me you cost me $800,000. Like these people, where the accountant's able to abscond from their responsibility, but we're not into that episode. But particularly as a trustee, protecting wealth to the downside is being able to interview and engage with individuals, let them know, look, you need to have insurance as a what is that? As a accountant. Why? Because what are they held responsible? Oh man, they just, hey man, I just filed. There's nothing else I could do. I didn't put the number. I didn't tell you the numbers go there. You told me the numbers go there. You see how that goes? See how the accountants talk to you? Well, I only put what you gave me. Well, you didn't think to go through and see if they added up properly? You didn't think to say, hey, let's go double check this real quick. Not going to itemize it. We may not go line for line, but we may go P&L every month to see, hey, did we make out on this month, make out on this month, blah, blah, blah. But we haven't heard that. We've heard some horror stories from the public side about you know, accountants and situations. So we talk about protecting the family estate assets to the downside. You're definitely going to be focused on what? Making sure you're dealing and engaging with accountants and lawyers that have malpractice insurance. Oh man, Christian, that trust Christian in the vault. That might cost me a lot of money. That's going to cost me some money. First of all, lawyers and accountants don't get paid until they do the work or you retain their services. So having counsel around, general counsel, is not bad. So what's wrong with having successful counsel? See, this is where you understand the difference between an average individual and somebody that's got a mediocrity mentality and somebody that's going to play in the big leagues. When you're going to play in the big leagues, you just step up to the plate and you make the phone call. That's what it is. It's not, oh man, I'm gonna go to this community bank because I'm trying to say I'm gonna be a millionaire for my family. I'm gonna pass along some assets to my family. That's what you saying, right? What you passing on to your family? A house that still got a mortgage on it? Is that what your parents did to you? They passed along a mortgage to you? How you gonna pass along the wealth in an improper position? Protecting your downside is who's the greatest asset as the trustee of the first generation wealth. One of them is you and your education and your ability to get in contact with the right people at the right time. The greatest asset is you. So that's the next step. The next step is ensuring the greatest asset. That's the preservation. We got to talk about that preservation. Why do we got to talk about the preservation? Because the dollars that you're utilizing as a commodity, we wouldn't say that they're just losing value. There are dollars being created, there are dollars being destroyed. That is one of the biggest currencies in the world. At one point, it may not be the biggest currency in the world, and you have to be aware of that. You have to be okay with that. Protecting to your downside is, hey, what exposure can we have in other markets? What emerging markets are going to pull surplus of dollars? When you look at a place like a Dubai that wasn't around 10, 15, 20 years ago. It was around, just didn't have the appeal. When you look at a place like a Singapore that has literally millionaires for every square inch of the land mass. Singapore is smaller than Texas. So when you talk about these places having a high density amount of wealthy people, how do these people protect their wealth? They make sure that the laws are favorable for them, and they make sure that they know the right people. Oh man, they make sure they're with the right banks in different countries. That's what they're doing. They're making sure they have wealth in different countries. When's the last time you went on a trip and opened up a bank account in another country? Did you do that? Because that's what the wealthy are doing to protect their wealth to the downside. We're going to talk about it. Oh, don't go to this state, don't go to that country because that's a bad place. So hold on. We're going to go ahead and set the record straight. If Cayman or Bermuda or the Bahamas or any of the BVI still has the largest holding of super yachts in the world, some of the most banks are registered on these islands. Banks, ladies and gentlemen, banks. It's a bank. What you call your private family bank, right? Right. Private family bank on the island. It's a private family bank on the island. Did you go to the island? Oh no, I didn't want to go there because in the public media they propaganda that those are places that the criminals are hiding money. Oh really? And so when you do you read wealthy magazines? They're still telling you where wealthy are hiding their money, where wealthy are putting their money, where they're diversifying their money. It's like anything else. It's a census. Hey, who's in this jurisdiction? What's their income? What's the this? What's the that? What's their demographics? BVI still has the largest holdings of super yachts in the world. Banks all throughout these different islands. Appreciate New Jersey for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate New Jersey for tuning in live, listen, replay. We got Memphis tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate Memphis for tuning in live, listen, replay. Feel free to hit the like button. Feel free to reach out Christian at trustchristian.com for the workshop. We definitely are excited about meeting people at the VIP dinner. Look forward to seeing everybody there and everybody at the workshop. Christian, how about Legal Shield? Uh, we thought about that. That's one of the old time cheap ways of retaining what we call counsel. Uh, it's one of those things that they were available for specific people. But what's wrong with having additional counsel outside of if you're going to have a membership that guarantees something or have some type of deal? Whereas if you're able to, first of all, it's so unfortunate so many people don't look at themselves as a Fortune 500 company. Everybody says they're a boss. We're in a so-called boss era of the United States where, oh, everybody doesn't want to work a job. They want to work for these part-time gigs and make big time money. Everybody wants to do an Airbnb and rent out their property. Yeah, right. Um, if you're a boss, when you show up to court, you're going to have more than one lawyer. It's how it goes. You got a team of lawyers. You seek these people. You invest your capital in yourself. Invest in the capital in yourself, quote unquote. Invest in the capital back into a trust, quote unquote, is acquiring great teams, purchasing teams. It's like any type of franchise or organization. They're purchasing talent. When you're hiring, you're purchasing talent. Doesn't the NBA hire good at basketball players? Doesn't Elon at Tesla hire great engineers? Yes. So you are hiring great counsel to defend in times of need. Same thing that Elon did. He has obviously great counsel for his legal team, just like the NBA, NFL obviously have great counsel for their leagues. Any great organizations are going to have multiple lawyers. So if an individual is going to consider themselves a boss, you're going to have multiple relationships that you can communicate with individuals about various different matters. It's like the old time saying, it's like, oh, well, I got to have three or four doctors' opinion. You're right. You got to have three or four legal opinions. You're right. You got to have two or three, at least, of financial accounting opinions. Now, let's get into it. If you're going private, how are you still seeking public information? If you're going private, how are you seeking public counsel? This is the difference. So, is the cognitive dissonance kicking in? We don't know. We've sat in a room with people at many different levels. Protecting wealth is not universal. The education is not universal. But in the private sector, there are systems that are going to be a lot more. They're going to be solid. You're going to see systems in the private. They're not losing money 3 or 4 generations deep. We've sat in a room with people 5 generations deep. We've sat in a room with people 6 generations deep plus. We've sat in a room with these people. They haven't lost money in 6 generations. You think this is people think this is funny or something? Oh man, maybe I should take a day off or something. 6 generations. It's not to say that the sixth generation was working. Sure, we would do. The day we met them, they weren't working. But how good is it to have a wealthy family, 300 million M's up plus, still have someone 6 generations later, still willing to get out, do some due diligence for the family estate, shop around for a network to expand the family estate or at least keep current with the times and keep the family estate's face seen in the world of wealth. Because the wealth world is a world of people. And so they're keeping their face seen. They're keeping their family name seen. They're keeping activity and engagement seen in these environments. 6 generations, 300 million M's up. If you was 300 millions up, 300 million M's up, overall family estate, and they weren't paying the bills. They weren't paying any bills. They were living off the family estate where you're 300 million M's up. They're not going to, you know, they're not it's not that they're not paying no bills. The family estate's paying everything. They're just doing what the family intended for them to do, which is keep things within the family, working together, and doing something productive. Honestly, you 300 million M's up. If you're not gonna lose 300 M's, millions, and they're paying all the bills for you, you're not doing anything bad to get rid of the capital. Sure, they're gonna pay for you to go to some conferences and travel the world and meet other wealthy people. Let's get real here. Or be real here. Someone asked, is there ever going to be a East Coast seminar when the workshop flyer says Orlando? Is Orlando not the East Coast? Orlando is actually on the East Coast of the United States. Orlando's on the East Coast of the United States. Protecting the wealth. Protecting the wealth is having that system in place. Because you're going to be able to curb against people's ignorance. People not knowing things in the family estate. You got to do that daily journal. So when your family is able to go back and read what was going on in the trustee's daily life, they can see. They can see a pattern of success. They're not going to see the reason why the second and third generation aren't going to do any minutes is because they didn't see the first generation do any minutes. That's why. Oh man, second and third generation fell off. There's only so much I could do. Well, if you set the proper example, they're going to do what they saw you do. And even if they did half of it, they still have a high level of accountability with what? Doing the minutes. Are you doing minutes on Sundays in front of your children? Showing them that? That's proper trustee family estate management. If you're doing it once a month in front of them, why? So they can see, oh man, these guys actually talk about finance and right. They talk about finance. They talk about managing assets. They talk about selecting assets. They talk about looking at assets, investigating assets. Not just investing, but investigating in front of the children. That's why we've had trustees bring their children to our workshops. Is because children don't ever have to pay. So if anybody they even consider coming to the workshop and they want to take their children to the Orlando theme park, feel free. But children don't pay. It's always adults. So just to make that very clear, people have sat in a room with children that are 12 years old, 8 years old. We wouldn't say newborns. We've had people walk out. They've had newborns at the workshop, but just not in the workshop. But we've had people bring very young children to the workshop. We have a couple pictures online circulated through Cornell the Trader that we've had a 16-year-old sitting in the room. We've had 18-year-olds sitting in the room. We had 22-year-olds sitting in the room. That was the last major workshop last year, and so we have quite a few younger people sitting. Our demographics of people sitting in a room, or if you're coming from your family, then we could see very young ages. But when you see people of their own accord, obviously people that are, 22 are sitting in a room. They're definitely sitting in a room with their parents, or they wanted to make sure that they could take care of their family estate. They heard about the information very early on, and they want to protect the capital that they feel they're going to make and raise over their lifetime. Why not start out in the right position? Why not start out with the right education? See, a lot of people are aware of what's called the broken system. Is it broken? Maybe not. Maybe it's just inadequate. We have to call it what it is. The fact that you need post-secondary education, whether it's about taxes, whether it's about how to build a business and create cash flow, it's literally made for someone that doesn't think for themselves. So you think for yourself, you'll be able to get results a lot more efficiently if you're not able to think for yourself out here. The fact that you're not able to think for yourself says a lot. Protecting the wealth to the downside is thinking. Definitely thinking. It's analyzing. That's all. Protecting the wealth is protecting your emotions. Let's go there and wrap it up. When you protect your emotions, you protect your wealth. We've heard people throughout the years say, "Oh, my money, it sweet, it sways my emotions. The money sways my emotions. When it's up, it's up. If it's up, it's up. If it's down, it's down. My emotions are down. My emotional bank account." Here we go. Protecting your wealth is your emotional bank account. As a manager, how far can you be pushed? How deep can you dig? Protecting the wealth is protecting your mindset. And inside of your mindset of analyzing things and logic, you have emotions that you have to control in business. We've seen a lot of great leaders protect their emotions in business. Oh man, you gotta have your EQ up, trust Christian. If all you gotta have your EQ up. Do you think people have an EQ when they steal from you? You think they do? What's their EQ? Is it high or low? Maybe they have a good emotional intelligence because they can read the fact that you're a guppy. So we'll rehearse what it looks like again. See, when you're in the private sector, they don't lose money. We don't lose money because we end the P&L every day up. Did we lose money throughout the day? Possibly. But the P&L is plus. And over a period of time of compound interest, that's consistently winning. When you have consistently won, you build emotional stability. There is no need to get too high. There is no need to get too low. Confidence comes from within. Confidence comes from consistency. Protecting the wealth is an emotional thing based off of consistency. When you're consistent, your emotions are in control. When you're inconsistent, your emotions are not in control. Protecting the wealth means you have to protect it. That means you don't lose it in the P&L daily. And in turn, that's protecting the wealth. And in turn, that's protecting your emotions. Protecting emotions is important. Why? Because we're not supposed to have emotions towards the money, correct? Right. But how many people have an emotional connection to money? If you have an emotional connection to money, type into the chat, yes, hit the like button. please feel free. We actually want to answer to this question. If you have an emotional tie to money, click the like button or type into the chat yes. See, most people will not admit that they have an emotional connection to money, but that's the unfortunate part. It's nothing wrong with having a slight emotional connection to money because most people do. We're talking about decreasing it. That's all. See, the vault says own nothing, control everything. You're still tied to it because you're touching it as a manager, as and something that you manage, you should care for. You're a caretaker. You're a steward of assets. We got one real person in the house. Appreciate Carmen Guy. We see the name that we can say it. So, Carmen Guy, appreciate you typing into the chat. Yes. Once again, we'll ask the question. If you have an emotional tie to money, please feel free to hit the like button or type into the chat yes. Because having caring for money is nothing that means you're going to protect it to the downside. Why? Because you're a steward. You're a proper steward. There's no need to jump into anything. We already have the money. So let's go ahead and look at the downside first. Why? We need to make ourselves aware of how ugly it can get. And then we can also jump for joy when we see how good it's going to get. But let's look and see how bad it's going to get. How many people want to see how bad it can get? Nah, that's doom and gloom, trust Christian Vault. The best asset managers look at the downside. The best trustees look at the downside. Someone actually typed into the chat, the goal is to control our emotional connection to money. And we'll actually counter argument with it's not so much control our emotional connection to money. It's actually release our emotional connection to money. Um, and that's a big deal because why do you have an emotional connection to money in the first place? We're not questioning the individual that typed that into the chat. We're stating this to the live listeners. We're stating this to the audience listening. It's to help an individual get through this process of eliminating this emotional connection and to a degree. We're not saying some people should never care about money. Some people, they should care about things because that gives them a feeling of achievement and appreciation. But we're going to talk about it from releasing, and releasing is releasing negative emotions towards money. See, there's positive emotions towards money and there's negative emotions towards money. See, we are real here. We actually are managing assets. We're not just talking about it. There's good things, good feelings that you get when you're managing money properly, and then there's negative feelings that you get when you're not. So let's release those negative feelings. But there's excellent feelings that we can get when we're protecting it. Excellent feelings that we can get. Oh man, don't have no emotions towards the money. Isn't that what they say on the internet? That's what the gurus say. Don't have an emotional connection, man. We're just gonna be real and honest with you. There are good emotions and bad emotions, quote unquote, towards money. So we're talking about releasing those negative ones. And yeah, sure, you can control those positive ones all day. Are you telling the positive affirmations to yourself? We done an affirmation on the YouTube here. Feel free to go back and listen to it. It's the Vault Relaxation Meditation. How are you going to welcome in wealth if you've been tense for the wealth? How you gonna be relaxed and keeping the wealth if you tensed on trying to keep the wealth? How you gonna keep the wealth if you not relaxed for the wealth? How are you gonna, you know, hold on to the wealth if you tense? So you gotta relax. How do you relax? Gotta do the deep relaxation meditation. Just type into the YouTube, the Vault. It'll be on the internet for Google, the Vault Deep Relaxation Meditation. Once again, this goes into the trustee responsibilities, protecting the wealth. Once again, we say, oh man, let's go back to that one point we made already in the episode. What's one of the greatest assets of the trust for the first generation of wealth? You as a trustee or the board of trustees. Did you grow you? Did you protect you? How do you expect the family to be protected if you're not protected? Speed of the group, speed of the leader. How do you expect the family to be protected if you're not protected? 100%. Why does it need to be a negotiation on having a car in your name? Why does it need to be a negotiation if you have a house in your name? Why does it need to be a negotiation with the family estate whether you can literally go buy a pair of socks with a debit card that has your name on it? Because this is where the population is. They're not aware of living in that type of environment of family, business, own nothing, control everything. They don't come from a position of haves. They come from a position of have-nots. And first of all, that's just a term. So if you keep saying that, then you're right. You are a have-not. But if you come from a position of you already had something, you had your name, you had your integrity, you had your values. Those are things that make you actually money. You have a work ethic. That's what's something that makes you money. You have a student mentality because when you learn a skill, after you learn a skill, you can execute the skill and you actually make some money. Those are the things that make you some money. But then on the back of that, we can get over to yes, the education that you end up getting didn't come from public school, maybe. Came from a private, came from a post secondary, came from an alternative. Gave you an education to do what? Learn how to make the money, make money. Because it's a tool, it's an asset, it's a commodity. Right. But what happened to people in that process educating an individual or people or families or whatever and saying, let's protect it to the downside first. Let's not go out here and focus on trying to disperse our energies and get capital. Let's make sure that we build the house on a solid foundation first. Your family probably could start out in a better position if you started out in a charitable position. Will your family come together for charity for a private family foundation so y'all can go on private family retreats and site visits? So y'all can plan on how y'all gonna protect the wealth? And the whole trip, it's a business expense. Well, we got to put that together, Trust Christian. If I don't really come from nothing like that, so I got to put that together. Well, now you see what protecting the wealth looks like. It's bringing your family together. It's you protecting yourself by making sure you got the system in place for the other family members to follow suit and come up under. Because you're the pioneer, you're the leader, you're the first. If you're the first, we deal with quite a few first generations. We dealt with quite a few second gens. Every now and then you run into some thirds, and then we talked about having fifth and sixth generation being in a room with them and being able to work with them and things like that. It's always good to even have conversations with people that are further gens than that. We've been in rooms with people that have way more than six generations, but actually having those intimate conversations, being able to work with these people, yeah, when you're able to work with someone 3 to 6 generations deep, it's different. Their mindset's different. They're not thinking about, oh, we came from a have not position. They're thinking about, well, first of all, my family, we never talked about money, so I'm focused on protecting whatever we have. I don't know what we have, but I'm just here to protect it. Well, what's that? That means I got to go to school. I got to get educated. We don't know what a school it could be. It could be a public school. It could be a private school. It could be whatever education. And they're going to get an education because the education is going to keep them current. They're also going to get that network. That network is going to help them find the next group of leaders that are going to be in the environment, their jurisdictions possibly, or just powerful people in the world. And we need to know those relationships. So appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, or replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, or replay. Feel free to type into the chat where you listen live, listen, or replay from. Feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. You want to come to the workshop. It's in Orlando. It's one day. We say it's 9 to 5 on the flyer. It's really going to be 9 to 7 for the VIP people that actually come to the VIP dinner. So we're looking forward to connecting with them and seeing them there. That's how that goes, ladies and gentlemen. Look forward to hearing from you all. Peace and joy.